MacPP and Carlton.
I move third reading of an act to establish an advisory committee to make recommendations on the jury recommendations made into the inquest into the death of Rowan Stringer. I move third reading of Rowan's Law.
I recognize Ms. MacLeod.
Thank you very much, Speaker. This is a very proud day for myself and my colleagues from Kitchener-Waterloo and from Ottawa South. Today we have arranged, I think, for all party support of a bill that will deal with youth concussions in a very interesting way, becoming the first in Canada to have concussion legislation on the books right here in the province of Ontario. And I couldn't be more proud to be with this process with my colleagues, but also with my constituents. Speaker, Rowan Stringer was 17 years old. She grew up in Barrhaven in the southwest end of the city of Ottawa. She played rugby. In the course of a 3-week period, Rowan suffered multiple concussions. And unfortunately, it would be fatal. And she would die from something we are all learning was called second impact syndrome. There was a coroner's inquest into Rowan's death. That produced 49 different recommendations. And it was a year ago, just last week, when that inquest concluded. Rowan's parents came to see me to talk about implementing those 49 recommendations. And I'm very proud today that Gord and Kathleen Stringer have joined us in the gallery once again. A year ago, I didn't know how I was going to help them and what the process would be. We tried multiple drafts of the legislation. I have been very open with some of the struggles that I had during that period of time last year, which makes this bill even that much more important to me and to my family. But it was through the help of my colleagues, John Fraser and Catherine Fife, and the legislative drafters at Queen's Park, and my good staff at Julia McKenzie, Jordan Milks, Frank Hall, Kayla Furnett, Helen Byers, and Patricia St. Louis, that we crafted, I think, a non-controversial, very important, incredibly stringent set of guidelines that will allow us over the next year to provide an implementation approach for those 49 recommendations, particularly those that are within the provincial jurisdiction, in order to set up guidelines for return to play, other parameters and protocols in terms of identifying and treating concussions, and making sure that the relevant players are on side. And I would be remiss not to say thank you to the 3 government House leaders, Yasser Naqvi, Jim Wilson, and Gilles Bisson, for making this agreement so that this law will be the first of its kind in Canada with rare all-party support. Speaker, that makes me so proud to be an MPP, and it is certainly the proudest moment of my 10-year career. The facts are, many people suffer from concussions. And we're learning now that not only could people die from second impact syndrome, but as we've learned from the concussion movie and from other instances that have occurred throughout North America, other diseases like CTE or Parkinson's can be a result of multiple concussions. I've learned that CHEO, which has endorsed this bill, the Children's Hospital of Eastern Ontario, sees roughly 1,000 youth every year at their emergency room. I've learned from Dr. Charles Tatters, who was part of the inquest and has been a friend of this entire process, that girls are more susceptible to concussions. We have learned that multiple concussions can mean there could be mental health problems, depression, even alcohol addiction or other types of addictions if the concussion is not treated. I also learned in this process, not really relevant to concussions, but that Eric Lindros once played the trumpet, and he was first chair, and I was really excited to learn about that. But I was really pleased throughout this process because we not only had this wonderful political support with the House leaders and with my colleagues, but even the Minister of Tourism, Culture and Sport, Mr. Michael Couteau, came on side to endorse this legislation, and I'm grateful to him. And so what this bill will do is effectively bring forward 5 ministries with 15 appointees in a year period to look at those recommendations and to implement them across government lines. And it will be the first time it's done in Canada, Speaker, but it's done in every jurisdiction in the United States. And that's why I'm proud today to have Pink Concussions here, an organization from the United States who've flown all the way here to Canada to pass this historic legislation, and I'm very grateful for them. Now, I'm not going to speak much longer, Speaker, but there are a lot of people I need to thank. When Rowan's parents first came to see me, I talked about the wonderful support I had from my political colleagues, but it was the grassroots support from the people of Ottawa, in particular the people of Barrhaven, that made a difference. I've already mentioned Kathleen and Gord Stringer, but I'd like to mention Daryl Bartraw, Joe and Linda Price, Gary Thomas, Bob Wilson, Kit Frost, Sandy Niquette, Graham Rattray, Paul Hunter, Barb Gilly, Phil Seelig, Ashley Powers, Dr. Sarah Cohen, Dr. Michael Vasilati of CHEO, Dr. Roger Zemek of CHEO, and Eric and Kina Lindros. That was Rowan's Barrhaven team. But Rowan also has a much larger team across the province of experts. People in the medical community, people in the athletic community who decided that they wanted to champion this bill. And I'd like to say thank you to Dr. Charles Tater, Dr. Michael Strong, Dr. Lisa Fisher, Dr. Cameron Marshall, Kyle Redhead, Louise Logan, Scott Watson, Dr. Francis Flint, Lorianne Hines, Drew Lukowski, David Patterson, Susan Kitchen, Mercedes Watson, Ruth Wilcock, Dr. Henry Speck, and Carol DeMartio. They were Rowan's Toronto team. Really remarkable group of people. My friend Phil set up a Facebook page and a Twitter account for Rowan's Law. And as I walked down here today, I checked my BlackBerry. I can only assume it was Kathleen who wrote on the page, "Today is for you, little Ro." And it is. And on Saturday, as we supported Rowan's pitch, the renaming at the South Nepean Park, thanks to councillors Jan Harder and Jody Minnick, who are part of Rowan's team, a lot of the actual athletes that played rugby with Rowan were there. And two of them are former summer students of mine who are close family friends. They were 17 when they lost their friend and teammate Rowan Stringer. And Alex Ellis and Lowry Gauthier were in the crowd. Lowry had just lost her mother, a very good friend of mine, Mel Gauthier. And Lowry was there and very bravely said that she wished there had been concussion legislation, thank you, before, so that the process would be there. But she said if there was one person that could make change, it was Rowan. And so I looked at the girls that were on the field with us, and I appealed to them, and I appealed to the young people who are pages here today that if they play sports. If you have a head injury and you're playing sports, you're skiing, you're playing soccer, hockey, ringette, rugby, doesn't matter. If you're hurt, you need to tell somebody. You need to tell your parents, you need to tell your coach, you need to tell your teacher. And if you won't take yourself out of play for yourself, you need to take yourself out of play for Rowan. And with that, I want to thank all my colleagues in advance for what I consider the greatest day in my political career, and one that has made a difference not only to the Stringer family and to all of the people in the city of Ottawa. Trust me, they are cheering this bill, Speaker, and they are applauding it. They love Rowan's Law. But we are doing it for all the youth athletes in Ontario. And with that, I wish all of the appointees from training colleges and university, from the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Sport, the Ministry of Children and Youth, and the Ministry of Health, Godspeed in the next 12 months, as they implement these recommendations and we honor the life of Rowan Strigger, and we understand the tragedy that took her life can't be replicated because, Speaker, it was preventable. Thank you.